Welcome to another episode of Her Head in Films. I'm Caitlin, and I'm your host. On this podcast, I share my thoughts and feelings about the films I watch. They tend to be art house and world cinema. What makes this podcast unique is that I weave together my life experiences with a personal and emotional discussion of film. I explore the impact that cinema has on me and why I connect so deeply to it. As I like to say, my head isn't in the clouds, my head is in films. Today's episode is about the 1972 film The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant. It's directed by Rainer Werner Fassbinder, and it stars Margit Karstensen, Herman, and Hannah Shigula. The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant follows a successful but domineering fashion designer, Petra von Kant, who becomes infatuated with a younger woman, Karin, played by Shigula. She's beautiful, but she's also manipulative. As Petra pulls Karin into her world of luxury, their relationship spirals into obsession, jealousy, and emotional cruelty. All of this unfolds within the suffocating walls of Petra's apartment, where her silent assistant, Marlena, watches the drama unfold. There will be lots of spoilers in this episode. There are spoilers in every episode that I do. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about new German cinema. I'm going to talk about Fassbinder and some stuff about how the film came to be, what it was inspired by. And then I'm going to talk about the film itself and why it emotionally resonates with me, why I chose to talk about it. I do want to be upfront that this episode is going to be very personal. Almost every episode I do is very personal, but this one in particular, I would say, opened some wounds for me. That's why I chose to talk about it, because I wanted to go into an experience that I had a few years ago, and I wanted to talk about desire and unrequited love and obsession and how we can become so infatuated with another person and how destructive that can be and the turmoil that it creates inside of us. I had a very searing experience that changed my life in really profound ways. I haven't known how to really talk about it for a long time, but I think this episode creates the space to do that. And that's why I do this podcast, is because there are certain films, not every single film that I watch does this, but there are certain films that sort of rip open parts of me, that they like open these chambers and these vaults inside of my soul or inside of my being, you know, and the film gives me a space or a container to talk about certain experiences that maybe I have struggled to come to terms with or find language for. And the language that I find is in the film. It's in the images, it's in the scenes, it's in what the actors and the actresses are doing. The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant is fascinating because it's like a chamber piece. It's just all within Petra's apartment and within her bedroom pretty much. And it's so suffocating and sort of claustrophobic in that way. It's this small space, but I feel like really enormous things are happening within it. The enormous emotions are being unleashed inside of that room. It's almost like a psychic space. It's very fitting that Fassbinder was inspired by Douglas Sirk and by his Technicolor melodramas from like the 1950s. I am a big fan of Douglas Sirk. I haven't done an episode about him yet, but I definitely should, and I need to. And I love Written on the Wind and Magnificent Obsession, and of course, the best, All That Heaven Allows. And so I love that Fassbinder was inspired by Cirque, because Cirque is operating on a very big emotional register. That's what melodrama does. And that's why I love melodrama. And Petra von Kant is all about melodrama. But I think Fassbinder brings a lot of like intensity and turmoil and almost degradation and debasement into melodrama, and goes into some really intense emotions around desire and unrequited love. So the film is going to open some chambers of emotion inside me, and I'm going to share a lot of personal stuff. And the reason that I do that is because I do hope that whoever listens to this episode, I think unrequited love and desire are very universal experiences. They were experiences that came later in life for me in my 30s. They were not really part of my life, but desire, sexuality, and unrequited feelings for other people is something that all of us, or almost all of us, have gone through, right? But Petra doesn't just have a crush. She is fully obsessed with Karin. There's just something so devastating about this film, and I lived some of that. I suspect that there are people who are going to listen to this episode who have lived some of it as well, and been brought very low and been brought to their knees by desire for another person that they could not have. And so I hope that what I share, particularly for women who might be listening, I hope that it resonates. I hope that you can see yourself possibly, or maybe you'll think about something you've been through in a different way. Or maybe just my perspective will be valuable and me sharing about an experience that has haunted me. It haunts me to this day. I still can't fully understand what happened inside of me. It's like something that I have chewed on and been gnawed by for a very long time. I know some of the roots of it, and I'll talk about that. But the experience itself, the explosion, the eruption of the desire and the obsession is not something that I can fully explain even to this day. And the only film that I saw that really put that agony, it's agony, it's agony to love and to not be loved back. The only film I could find that like captured just the absolute suffering of it. And Petra says that in the film, I'm suffering, was this film. It just was like, I still can't explain it. Like when I watched it, what it did to me as a result. So that's what I'm going to try to go into and share. And I'm going to be very raw. I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to meander because that's what I do on these episodes. I don't make anybody listen. You can turn this off at any time. This is my truth. This is part of my life. And when I saw the bitter tears of Petra von Kant, it just absolutely cut me open. It cut me open. I don't know. That's all I can say. It's like things that were inside of me, things that I couldn't give voice to, were in this film when I first watched it. And then I watched it again for this episode. And I felt like some part of me was put into that film. It was put on the screen. The film made me weep the first time I watched it. And in my preparation for this episode, I've been very emotional. I've been just so intensely affected by memories and the feeling of what happened. Because the thing about it is like, I met this person, this man, and I'm past it now. Like, I felt like I was possessed, and then I felt like I was freed after about 2.5 years of it. And I have forgotten a lot of things about him, which I never thought would happen because he used to be all I could think about, right? When I woke up, when I went to bed, and the obsession with like this person and why doesn't he love me back? And now I've forgotten him. I've forgotten so much about him, but the feeling of him is still there. The feeling of what I felt for him. And I realize now, of course, it had nothing to do with him. It really was all inside of me. And I never thought that I would be free of it. I was scared that I would never be free of it. And then I was free of it. And then I almost didn't know what to do because it had taken hold of me for over 2 years. And there's just something haunting about it and frightening about it. I still can't make sense of it. I don't even think I'll be able to make sense of it through this episode. But I want to talk about these feelings. I want to talk about these emotions because sometimes I don't know what else to do with them. What do you do with these feelings? What do you do with all of it? And what do you do with the love that you feel, but there's nobody to give it to? What do you do with love and desire when it has no place to go and it just becomes damned inside of you? It becomes trapped. My life changed because I met this person, and her life changes when Petra meets Karin, when they collide, when they come in contact with each other. She's changed by it, and it's inexplicable. I think love and desire are some of the most mysterious things of the human condition, and we can't always make sense of them. They are primal, they are mysterious, they defy logic, and sometimes they even defy language. And so I'm grateful for this film because the film allows me to talk about these things. So, I want to say a few quick words about New German cinema and Fassbinder. I will be honest with you, I'm not a Fassbinder expert. I've only seen 2 of his films so far. I've seen Ali, Fear Eats the Soul, and obviously Petra. The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant is my favorite Fassbinder. I have a hard time believing that I would ever find a film that would top this one for me with Fassbinder. So the New German cinema started around 1962 and it went to 1982. It was a very groundbreaking movement, and it rejected escapist entertainment of post-war German cinema. It had more radical politics, it was more experimental, and it critiqued things like fascism, capitalism, and social repression. It was certainly inspired by things like the French New Wave and Italian neorealism, and even theater. And some of the big names of New German cinema were Rainer Werner Fassbinder, Werner Herzog, and Wim Wenders. They really wanted to confront Germany's Nazi past and the Cold War divisions that had sprung up and consumerist alienation. Some of the hallmarks of this movement are the political aspects of it, like going after the legacy of fascism, looking at workers' rights, looking at gender oppression. There was also stylistic innovations like long takes and melodrama and sort of the documentary realism. And then the movement was very much against sort of like Hollywood. It didn't want to be commercial. You know, these were films that were considered art house. They were shown at festivals and they were very admired around the world. Fassbinder was a big personality. He was a big director of this movement, and he was prolific, made like 40 films, many of them within a 14-year period. He worked at a very intense pace. He wanted to provoke, he wanted to unsettle people, he wanted to force Germans to confront and reckon with their past. He didn't want them to look away from it. And so the new German cinema really revitalized German cinema and put it on the world stage internationally. It influenced other directors, and it was just a very daring and politically vital movement. I have not seen enough of these films personally, and I definitely need to see more. I'm a big Werner Herzog fan. With Wim Wenders, I've not seen a lot, but Wings of Desire is a really important film to me, and I did an episode about it. So I still have a lot more films within New German cinema that I need to watch. It is not a movement that I'm really familiar with. I'm much more comfortable with something like Italian neorealism. And I've done some films about that, like Journey to Italy and Umberto D. And I've seen quite a few films from Italian neorealism. Whereas with the new German cinema, I haven't seen as much. So I'm not an expert about it, but I like what I've seen and I like what it stood for. I like what it was trying to do. And I think it's very important. And I definitely want to see more of Fassbinder. So, The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant was Fassbinder's 12th film. It was made in 1972. It was around this period that Fassbinder discovered Douglas Sirk, and he saw many of Sirk's film around 1970 to 1971. And this really transformed his filmmaking. And I'm going to read from some different articles about Fassbinder. This one is by Jonathan Rosenbaum in his review of The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant. And he says that finding Douglas Sirk was really important for Fassbinder and that it transformed his filmmaking practice. And he also ended up taking a film crew to Sirk at his home in Switzerland. And Fassbinder and Jonathan Rosenbaum, I found his review helpful because he talks about the painting in the film. The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant, obviously, like I said, it's about unrequited love and desire. It's also a classic of queer cinema because it's about two women and about lesbians. It's also this fascinating film with like really interesting fashion. And there's this huge painting in Petra's room. And that painting is Nicolas Poussin's Midas and Bacchus. I thought it was interesting what Rosenbaum had to say about this painting and how it connects to Petra von Kant and the things that she's struggling with. But Rosenbaum connects it to, quote, the inability of Petra von Kant, and by extension, Fassbinder himself, to live and act freely outside the bourgeois norms of patriarchy. In Petra's terms, this means her failure to achieve in her relationship to Karin something more liberated than a replication or parody of heterosexual behavior in terms of possessiveness. The Poussin painting, in short, serves as a mocking rebuke to Petra's pretense to have transcended the limitations of her two previous and failed heterosexual relationships, unquote. And so that's what he has to say. If you were wondering about how the painting might fit in, to the film, I find it interesting what Rosenbaum says that Petra's possessiveness is almost like patriarchal because what Petra does through her desire is that she sort of turns Karin into an object. She denies Karin her humanity and her multidimensionality. And I do think that that is the danger of this kind of desire. I hesitate to even call it love. And I'll talk more about that when I talk about the film is this love? Is this love if it hurts that much? Is it love if it isn't returned? Is it love if you don't see the other person as fully human? When I talk about desire and my own experience of unrequited love, I am not painting myself as perfect or as the victim. I certainly have criticisms of myself and how I acted and what happened inside of me. And I realize now that I did not see this person as like fully human, did I? There's a reason we call it object of desire. It was me trying to fulfill something inside me. It was me desperately needing something that another person did not want to give me and could not give me. When it's unrequited, it's not returned. And there is a term that's become more popular the past few years called limerence. And limerence it's a hard word to fully describe, but it is more connected to sort of an addiction to a person. And it's sort of characterized by obsessive thinking, intrusive thoughts. It is an involuntary obsession with another person and sort of an addiction to that person, to their attention. And there's also within it a desperate desire for reciprocation, for the other person to feel as intensely about you as you feel about them. I hesitate to use the word limerence. First of all, a lot of people don't know what it is. I just had to explain it. That it's like, it's not a crush. It takes over your life, it takes over your mind. It is obsessive. It's obsessive, intrusive thoughts about somebody and the inability to stop. It's involuntary, it's not fully chosen. And I don't know how much we even understand limerence. You are desperate for this other person to love you back in the same way. And you can become very addicted to the dopamine hit of their attention, talking to them, having contact with them. Something about them just obsesses you. And so I guess you could use it interchangeably with unrequited love, possibly. Limerence is just not as well known. It has to be sort of explained. And also, I worry that it might pathologize people a bit. It feels a bit like therapy speak to use the term limerence. I feel that that is definitely what I had, but sometimes I just use the term unrequited love because it's shorthand. Everybody knows what unrequited love is. It is having feelings for somebody and that not being returned. I did care about this person. I did feel things for him. But did I love him? Did I know him well enough to love him? No. So sometimes I don't know how to describe it. I guess limerence is the more accurate term, but is it pathologizing? And do enough people understand what limerence is, or have they felt it themselves? Not necessarily. But it's certainly not just a crush. A crush is pleasant. A crush is like, oh, I see that guy at the coffee shop every day when I get my cup of coffee. Or a crush is pleasant, you know? It's like limerence and unrequited love are like pain. There's a suffering. There is a maybe even a possession. And maybe what we've called unrequited love at times throughout history really is more like limerence, right? People who have limerence often have childhood trauma. It's something that they do to emotionally regulate themselves, because what limerence taps into is fantasy, is that you have this fantasy of another person and that comforts you, and you kind of become addicted to your idea of who somebody is. But I actually think Petra von Kant, unrequited love, is a better term, because she's in an actual relationship with Karin. She's not just fantasizing about this woman by herself in her room. Karin is there. She has been intimate with Karin. She's in a relationship with this woman. I think maybe unrequited love works better for Petra. And then what I went through, limerence, would be a better description, because I did not have a relationship with this man. It was a platonic friendship where I developed feelings for him, and those feelings were not returned. And it was difficult for me to accept that and to let go of this person. I became so unable to let go for a really, really long time. My brain did not want to let go, and my brain was obsessed. It is important to separate those two things. The film is more about unrequited love. My experience is more about limerence, but I'm probably just going to use the term unrequited love just as like an easy way to talk about it. In an article by Ryan Gilby, he talks about Fassbinder, and he says that Fassbinder's films were, quote, painfully personal works that were rushed straight to the cinema screen before the autobiographical wounds had properly healed, unquote. And The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant actually started as a play, which is not surprising because it takes place in one room. And the play has its roots in Fassbinder's own relationship with a Bavarian actor named Gunther Kaufmann. Fassbinder was obsessed and infatuated with Gunther, who was younger than him, and there was a tiny bit of reciprocation, but it sounds like Gunther Kaufmann used Fassbinder, that he profited off of him and that he got something out of the relationship, right? That he was using Fassbinder for his own enrichment and for things like that, which is very similar to Petra and Karin. Karin gets, like Petra wants to turn her into a model and all kinds of stuff and make her life better. Karin allows that because she is benefiting from Petra's attention. Petra's 35, Karen's 23. There's a big age gap there. Like, I'm 35. I can't imagine being with a 23-year-old. Like, that is unimaginable to me. I'm not even friends with any 23-year-olds, so I couldn't imagine being in a romantic relationship. So the play was written from that place of woundedness with Fassbinder, that he was obsessed and infatuated with this man. That man did not fully reciprocate it. Fassbinder was 25, so Fassbinder was not necessarily in any kind of age gap relationship, it doesn't seem, but he was 25 when the play premiered, and then he did the film version in 1972 that was very faithful to the play for the most part. The film was shot in about 10 days, so that is like really, really quick. Fassbinder died from a drug overdose. He was only 37 years old, and he had made about 40 films by that time. He worked at a really intense pace. According to The Guardian, quote, his dominant theme was the manifestation of power at every level of society, whether between lovers, families, or a country and its citizens. So that was just some background. I just wanted to talk a bit about how the film came to be. And now I want to shift into my personal thoughts, feelings, experiences. I'm going to weave that into scenes and moments from the film. There are particular scenes in this film that just cut me open. They're incredibly raw. And it doesn't surprise me that this film was autobiographical. It feels that way. It's very different from something like Ali Fear Eats the Soul. As much as I like that film, I like films about age gaps in terms of like a woman being older than a man. And Ali Fear Eats the Soul is more about an elderly woman and a younger man. Or a film like Harold and Maude comes to mind. Like, I'm very interested in when like older women connect with younger men. I just find that because it's so, I think even now it's a taboo thing. And so that's why Ali Fear Eats the Soul is really interesting to me. But The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant is so much more emotionally raw. And you can tell that it came from a place of shatteredness, that it must have been very shattering for Fassbinder to go through that experience. And he's not, I mean, if we're going to say it's autobiographical, he's not making himself out to be some great person, because Petra von Kant is like a terrible person in this film. She's verbally abusive, she's self destructive, she's self centered. She doesn't think about other people's feelings. She's like a bull in a china shop. Like, this is a very brutal, cold woman. But I think that helps explain how, like, why she feels the way she does about Karin. That Karin brings out something in her. Karin brings out like a monster, and Karin also brings out something softer. Because when Karin talks about her parents being dead, I noticed in that scene the way that Petra really softened, where she almost saw Karin as like a child, as somebody she wanted to save. So I think Karin also brings out the savior in Petra, and she wants to care for Karin. She wants to make her into a star. She wants to put her on the map. She wants to make her life better. She wants to use her power and privilege and status to help Karin become a star. But she instantly feels something very electric and powerful for this woman, and she cannot free herself from it for a very long time. Even though it is an emotionally abusive situation on both sides, they're hurting each other. Karin is still sleeping with men while she's with Petra, and Petra wants to own Karin, which is not possible. They're not supposed to be together because they bring out the worst in each other. Nobody looks great in the film except for maybe Marlena. Marlena has her own feelings for Petra. So in a lot of ways, this is like a love triangle. Marlena is in love with Petra. Petra is in love with Karin. People are always in love with the ones that they can't have. Like they're in that yearning and that longing. And it's so hard to find two people on the same page who are both in love with each other. So I want to talk a bit about my experience that haunts me. And I want to connect that to the film, of course. But a lot of this episode is me talking about myself because that's what every episode is about. And that's just what this podcast is. It's the space where I try to share my voice, and where, in the act of talking about these experiences, I'm trying to create meaning out of them. I'm trying to use the pain and what I went through. I'm trying to use that anguish, that excruciating wounding that happened to me and that I have paid the price for. And I do want to talk about desire. And I like that Fassbinder uses desire to talk about power, because this film is about power, who has it and who doesn't. And when it comes to desire, particularly when it's not mutual, when it is unrequited love, there's always a power imbalance. And that power imbalance can be very destructive. It really can. Two experiences brought me to my knees in my life so far. My father's death when I was 16, which I've talked about extensively on this podcast. And then this desire for a man who could not love me when I was 31 years old. These are sort of the seismic events of my life in a lot of ways, next to being a caregiver for my mom, the way that I have for the last 5 years since 2020. My father's death brought me to my knees, and then my unrequited love for this man at 31. I wasn't prepared for either experience. I never thought that it would happen to me. I was not boy crazy. I have an episode where I talk more about this. I did an episode about the film Marty by Delbert Mann. I have never been in a romantic relationship. I stayed away from men for my entire life because I was never desired by them and they were never interested in me. They've never found me attractive or pretty, and so they never wanted me. I've never been loved or wanted romantically. And as a woman, it does something to you. It wounds you. And I talk about in my episode, it's the deepest wound of my life is not being loved. I was loved by my father and I'm loved by my mother. And so I've had parental love, but I've never had romantic love. I've never dated. I've never been in a relationship. I've never had a man ask me out or want to be with me or show interest in me or have a crush on me or fall in love with me. Men barely talk to me or acknowledge me in real life. So for a really long time, I suppressed my desires and I avoided men and I lived, I guess, like a hermit or a recluse. I've struggled with agoraphobia for a really long time. And I just denied that part of myself because what's the point? What's the point in having crushes? Like, what is the point in feeling anything for men when I'm only going to be crushed? I'm only going to get my heart broken. But with this particular man, I took a great, great risk. I think it was the biggest risk of my life. And I opened my heart and I had hope that somebody would finally love me. And when it didn't happen and when it wasn't reciprocated, it destroyed me. It brought me to my knees in really scary, scary ways. And I had a breakdown. I had a full breakdown over this experience. It started in 2020, and then I was free from it in 2023. 2.5 years of my life was consumed by this pain, this agony. And Marguerite Duras is one of my favorite writers, and she writes a lot about desire. And she writes about how destructive desire can be, and that's what it was. I think Petra is a really good example of how self destructive desire and obsession with another person can be. And so all I can really do is talk about this and share it. I survived it. I didn't know if I would, and it haunts me. It truly haunts me. Something like went wrong inside me. Something broke inside me when I met this man. I had never let myself feel anything for somebody ever. I couldn't even go there. I didn't pay attention to them. I just stayed away and protected myself. And I wish that I had done that, honestly. I wish that I had never let this into my life because I paid for it. I paid dearly. I really had hope that he would be different, that all the men who had ignored me, taunted me, ridiculed me, rejected me, treated me like I was dirt, like I was nothing. Those were my experiences with boys and later on with men because I live in a larger body. That's my crime. Did you know that it's a crime to be fat? The hatred for fat women is unreal. The dehumanization. I have been treated like I am not even a human being. The things that people have said and done to me, and the ways that they've treated me. But men treated me like I was absolute dirt, that I was nothing, and I just wanted to be loved. When I met him, I thought my life was opening up. I was so happy when I met him. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe this person had come into my life. I thought he was so special at the time, and I never felt that way about a man before. I was 31. I had never felt like this about a man, and I just wanted to love him and know him and care about him. It really did come from a pure place inside me at first. I felt like something beautiful was happening to me. I felt such a deep connection. We had so much in common. And it was like this lightning bolt the first time. And it was just, I'd never felt anything like that before. I thought something great was happening to me. I thought after all these years of pain and loss and grief, because after my father died, I just went into terrible depression, anxiety, agoraphobia. I was traumatized and I was just dissociated, sleepwalking through my life. And I thought, finally, after all this time, instead of grief, I'll have love. I'll finally have love. After all this pain, I'll finally have something beautiful. And instead, it was one of the worst experiences of my life. And it haunts me because I feel like I lost my mind and I had a breakdown. And the madness of it, the chaos like the chaos inside you when you feel all this for someone and they don't feel it back. The shattering, the desperation to be loved. It's also degrading. It's degrading to be so desperate for somebody else. And I think what brings us to our knees is what changes our lives as well. It was one of the darkest experiences of my life because of the madness of it, of being so out of control of what I felt for this person. And just like when he didn't feel it back after months of getting to know him, and it was like I didn't want to live, and I didn't know if I would survive it. I didn't know if I would live through it. And that is so wild to say, that I did not want to be alive anymore because of a man. Because a man didn't love me. But Petra says it in the film herself. She has moments where she just wants to die, or she thinks that she will die if she does not get the love of this woman. You can't even explain it to someone who hasn't lived it. I've never seen that in a film. I'm not saying other films don't exist about this, right? I'm sure they're out there, but I have not come across it, of a character, a woman, showing the monster inside her, the madness inside her, what this desire does to her, the ugliness that it brings out, the desperation, the debasement, the agony of it. Of like, I don't want to be alive because this person doesn't love me back. I still don't understand what was unleashed inside of me. But I think that it was a lifetime of longing. It was a lifetime of aching for love, of being deprived of it, being deprived of my very humanity. Because to love is to be human. As human beings, we need love. We need to be loved. And I didn't have it. I didn't get to be kissed. I didn't get to be held. And I would ask anybody who's listening right now, if you can imagine your life, if you're someone who's been in relationships, can you imagine being 30 in your 30s and no one has ever wanted you, ever looked at you, ever kissed you, touched you, held you? Imagine your life without love, without romantic love, if you have known it. Imagine your life without laying in bed with someone, holding someone's hand, looking in their eyes, looking across a room at your person, and them looking back at you. Wipe your life clean of it. And who would you be right now? Can you imagine being denied all of it? That no one sees you. No one wants to know you. You've never been on a date. None of it. You've never even been told, I love you, by someone that you've said, I love you too. And I still don't have it. Still. And I don't know if I ever will. I may die without knowing it. And by the time I met him at 31, I had lived without it for decades. For decades. And I thought he would be different. I thought it was finally my turn, my time, that I would know love, that I would feel it back, and it would make up for all those years of all the years that I was alone and abandoned and rejected and unseen. And I put all of that on this person. And I thought I would finally know love through him. And I did. Just all these needs that had never been met. It hurts to be unwanted. It hurts to be unloved. It hurts for men to look at you with disgust and revulsion the way that they've looked at me, or to just ignore me completely. I just thought that I wouldn't feel like nothing anymore, that I would matter to somebody. And I just thought for once that a man wouldn't treat me like I was nothing. And that's why it was so devastating, because it actually was worse. Because I connected to him. I got to know him. And I just thought he would be different. He wouldn't be like all those other men. But it was just worse. And I guess that's why it tore me apart. Why it became such a nightmare. I just wanted to love and be loved. I wanted something beautiful to happen to me. I wanted more. It unlocked this part of me that I had never fully acknowledged or faced. And that was my desire to be loved, my desire to be desired. I had tried to shove it away. And when he rejected me, it just deepened the pain. And when it ended and when he wasn't in my life anymore and it couldn't be reciprocated, it just deepened my sorrow. It felt like this confirmation that I really was unlovable. And I still feel that I'm not lovable. Because how could I be 35 and not be loved? I just wonder at times, like, why? It's like when he rejected me and abandoned me, because it was a form of abandonment once it ended. It's like it confirmed all the worst fears about myself, that I really was just nothing. I think that this kind of experience, it either destroys you or you harness it. You listen to it. That's what I've tried to do with it too, is like it wasn't just desire for this person. It opened up, like I told you, it opened up a part of me that I'd never felt before, that I'd never acknowledged. And it wasn't just a desire for him. It was a desire for a different life. And I guess if anybody's listening who's in it, who's in the unrequited agony, you have to use it. First of all, you have to let go of that person who can't love you. And then you have to use the feeling. You have to listen to it because it is love. I don't know if we really love a person who we don't know and we're not in a relationship with. And maybe we do objectify them through our desire. I think that it was some kind of love that came out, or it was the desire to love, not just the desire to have him and to be with him, but the desire to love him. I did want to love him. I wasn't given the chance to because I wasn't in a relationship with him. But you can take that love that you think you feel for another person and you can allow it to expand you if you listen to it and you use it. I don't know if I'm a romantic anymore. I thought that I was, but I don't see men the way that I once did. I didn't have a lot of like personal experience with them. And I think for a long time I had these fantasies. I had these ideas about men. And then when I was like in it and actually connecting to a man and then the way things happened and stuff, I just don't see men the same way, the way that I once did. But I think you can also learn through it that you deserve love. Like you should not stay in something where you love somebody and they don't love you back. I don't want to be the one who always loves more. I can't be the one who always loves and never receives it in return. And I know that I'm not talking a lot about the film, but it's like I am talking about the film. I'm talking about what it stirs inside me. I'm excavating the feelings inside the film. I'm trying to share what this film makes me feel and why it's so powerful and why it matters is because we watch this woman, Petra, we watch her meet Karin, and then we watch her dig herself deeper into a grave of unrequited love that brings her literally to her knees by the end of the film. And I'm going to talk about some specific scenes in a little bit. We watch her become possessed, and then we watch her become free. Because I see there was something almost healing about the end of the film. Because the film didn't just capture the madness of the desire for this man, it also captured my freedom from it. When she's at the end and she's lying in bed, she's no longer possessed. She's finally herself again. She's finally back to reality, isn't she? And Marlena leaves. Marlena comes to her senses about Petra and she extricates herself from it. It took me 2.5 years to get free of this. And who I was at the beginning and who I was at the end are very different women. This experience destroyed a version of me and it also rebirthed me. And sometimes I think that I met him not so that he would save me, but he did in a weird way, or he did in an unexpected way. save me. Because meeting him and going through that experience changed me. And it woke me up. It woke me up. And he was not meant to save me. I had to save myself. And I did. Because before I met him, I was on a really dark path. I was consumed by depression, by the death of my father, and I was very self destructive. I was drowning in self hatred. And in fact, my attachment to him and my obsession with him, I believe, was a manifestation of my self hatred because I was wanting a man to love me who couldn't love me. It took me a long time to walk away from it, to free myself from it, because I hated myself so much. And it was like through his treatment of me, I realized how much I hated myself. Because why would I let somebody treat me like this? Why would I stay in something that wasn't mutual? Why would I put myself through this kind of pain over someone who couldn't love me? Why did I think that I didn't deserve to be loved back? Why did I want to pour all this love into somebody who didn't want it? It was like I had to totally rethink my life. I am a completely different person after the experience. And I sometimes wonder where I would be right now if I had not met him and I had not gone through it. Because after it ended and he was out of my life, I promised myself that I would fight. I would love myself. I would not do this to myself. I deserved better and I had to take better care of myself. It's like I woke up. I was sleepwalking for all these years, just sleepwalking, dissociated, lost in my little dream world, disembodied, like I had no connection to life or to the world. And it was like the instant I met him, I woke up. I had to wake up. I had to, because I was so disconnected from life, from the world, from myself. And I believe I may have ended up in an early grave potentially, the way that I was before that experience. In a way, it saved my life. I'm not saying he did. I did the work. I had to change because I thought, you hate yourself so much. I could feel my self hatred through what happened. Why do you not think that you deserve to be loved back? Why would you love someone who doesn't love you? Why would you stay in it? And I did. And I had to change. I was more alive because of this experience. But I woke up to a life that was very lonely, very hard. And I've never been able to fully be free of the aching for love. It was like I could bear the loneliness before I met him. I could handle that. I knew that loneliness. I knew the contours and the shape and the dimensions of that loneliness. I knew how to survive it because I didn't know what I was missing. I didn't know what it felt like to connect with a man, to feel so much for a man, to want to be loved. It's like I could bear the loneliness before him, but I still don't know how to bear the loneliness after him because now I know what I've missed out on all these decades. That feeling of a connection with another person. And when I met him, I I felt like I finally wasn't alone anymore for the first time in my life. I felt like I wasn't alone in the world, but I am. I am alone. Just like Petra. At the end, she says that. She says, I'm so alone. And she's scared. When you let go of that person who made you feel so much and made you feel less alone, or like you finally had met somebody to be with, to be by your side, and then you're alone. And you're alone in a different way because now you have that ache that they put in you. It's like I have this craving that I can't get rid of. This is it's a tortured film. This is an anguished film, and that's what moves me about it. But even though this experience brought me to my knees and it almost destroyed me, I think I've used it. I really do. And doing these episodes and doing the podcast again, it's like reclaiming my power. That's what it is. taking back my power, taking back my voice. Like I said earlier with Fassbinder and power, I love that he uses desire to look at power dynamics. Because Petra is older, right? There's an age gap. But who really has the power in the relationship? I think it's complicated because Petra has power in terms of her age and her status, and she has the money. She is, in a way, Karen's employer. She makes her into a model, with and the fashion in this film, like the look of it is so interesting, isn't it? That painting and the gowns that they wear, and it's very glamorous, it's very sexy. The mannequins, as I was rewatching this film, I was like, this is a strange film. This is a weird film because Douglas Sirk is not strange. Douglas Sirk is very lush. I love the Technicolor films of his. They're so lush, but I don't know if they're weird. I think The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant is genuinely weird. Even the clothes are a bit strange. They're so elaborate, but these women are just in Petra's bedroom. Why would they even be wearing these gowns in the bedroom? Like, they're not on stage, they're not out in public. It's not how a woman dresses in her room. And yet they're so elaborately costumed. And then the mannequins are in all these weird positions, right? There's such a strangeness about the film that's hard to describe. But like the power, I really want to linger on this because I find it fascinating when it comes to desire. So in some ways, Petra has power, but because Karin is the object of desire, she has power over Petra. Petra is at her mercy, and Karin knows that. Karin knows that she can do anything, and Petra will put up with it because Petra has like no self-respect. Like, she's so obsessed. She will do anything for Karin. She will let Karin cheat on her and be with men. She will let Karin say mean things to her. And of course, Petra says very mean things to Karin. They spew poison at each other. It's a poisonous relationship. It's an emotionally abusive relationship. It's a form of self harm, particularly for Petra. This is such a film about how we can be wounded. When we desire, and this is the terrifying thing about desire itself or feeling something for another person, when we desire, we can be hurt. We are the vulnerable ones. We are the exposed ones. The one who desires is the one who takes the risk and suffers. And I would also argue that they are the one who is willing to feel something. They are taking the risk of feeling something for another human being. Instead of numbing themselves or closing themselves off, desire is a risk. Desire is an opening up, and it is an act of making yourself vulnerable and capable of being wounded, which I think is part of the root of vulnerable. It is about being able to be wounded. The one who is desired is not wounded or able to be hurt because they don't care. There's nothing at risk. The stakes are very low for the one who is desired, and it can be life or death for the one who desires. The stakes are so high, and I wonder if desire is always about power. This is what the film made me think about as I was watching it. You are powerless in the face of the one you desire, who does not desire you back, does not love you back. And so I think in the aftermath of unrequited love, a very important part of your journey is about claiming your power, taking your power back. And I've had to do that. And there is something, being a woman who desires a man who doesn't want you back, that is a particularly degrading position to be in because the woman is the one who is supposed to be desired. The woman is the one who is pursued. We can talk all we want about feminism and all kind like, oh, we've made changes. No. For the most part, in dating, even now, it is the man who pursues the woman. You, as the woman, you're not supposed to go out and chase men or pursue men. And I didn't. Like, this man sought me out and initiated with me I did not go and seek him. But when I started to talk to him and get to know him, and I felt very deeply about him. But I was not the initiator. But as a woman, you're not supposed to go around and chase and pursue. And I never have. I mean, like I told you, I just shut it off for much of my life. I didn't go near men. I avoided them because unfortunately, when you're a certain type of woman, when you don't fit beauty standards and you're not seen as conventionally attractive, first of all, men don't treat you well, anyways. It's not like men are seeking you out. I mean, that's my experience. That's the only experience I can speak from. And if you do try to be friendly and you try to engage with men or talk to them, if they don't find you attractive, they will they'll be very rude to you because they seem to have this idea that because you are talking to them or being friendly that you automatically want them or you're like hitting on them or pursuing them or something. It's really weird. They were not in my life. Like anyways, they wanted to make it very clear that they were not interested in me and did not want to be seen with me. That's for sure. But desire, I think, is about power. And so to be a woman who desires a man, it puts you in this very degrading position that no woman should be in. You can't force love. You can't force mutuality. You can't force reciprocation of love and feelings. And you have to let go. You know, I learned that the hard way is like, oh, maybe he'll change or maybe he'll see how great I am or, and it's like, no, if the attraction is not there, I had no experience. So I was kind of naive and I thought if he got to know me, he could feel something for me or whatever. And it's like, no, if someone's not attracted to you or not into you that way, they're not, particularly with men. Like if it's not there, it's not there. I feel like this film really reminds me of the pain that I went through. Like it draws me back. That's why I've been really emotional in the lead up to this episode, is that I remember the pain of the experience. I remember the price of that pain, of what I lost because of this experience. Because he didn't lose anything. Karin doesn't really lose anything, does she? I lost a lot. I lost time. I wasted time over, being in bed crying, right? I lost my mind. I lost like my sense of self. I got so lost in this obsession with with a man. I never thought I would be like that. I used to judge other women. I couldn't understand women who were boy crazy. I couldn't understand women who I used to be like, why can't women just leave? Like, why are you staying with a terrible boyfriend? Why are you staying in something where someone doesn't love you? And now I have so much empathy, of course. The attachment, like all the feelings that you can have. Like, I never used to be obsessed with men. I had crushes, or I liked teen actors when I was a little child, right? Like, I had posters on my bedroom wall, but I had never felt this before. I lost a lot. It's one of the reasons I stopped doing my podcast because I had a total breakdown. You lose so much, but the person who's not in love, the person who's the object of desire, they don't lose anything. Nothing's at risk for them. But the person who pines away and yearns and obsessively wants to possess another person or wants the love from that person, we are the ones at risk. They are the ones at risk. The ones who are like this, which I've been like, it endangers us. It's a very dangerous desire for that reason. I will say the times when it becomes dangerous for the object of desire is more like when it crosses the line into violence, into stalking, into all of that. That's not what we're talking about here. Like that's not in Petra von Kant, right? This is just an emotional, it's an experience happening inside of Petra. She is not violent toward Karin. She's more violent toward herself because a lot of times women, when we feel obsession or we feel all of this, or even with our own anger, we tend to do it against ourselves, turn it against ourselves. And you see that with Petra with the glass that she breaks with her hand and she's bleeding. You see it in the way she just flings herself on the ground to pick up the phone, right? Like she has lost control of herself and her body and she is endangered. But of course, the other person can be in danger usually when it's a man who wants a woman and he will stalk but it can happen. It can happen between men and between women for sure. But like we're not talking about stalking or domestic violence or murder, right? We're not talking about crimes of passion. We're talking about more unrequited love that does not cross those lines, that stays within the bounds, but is emotionally violent. This is a film about an emotional violence that is happening within Petra and that almost destroys her and brings her to her knees. She is the one in danger. So that's the power dynamic and how this unrequited love, this obsessive passion, the way that it tortures you, how all consuming and devastating it can be to you, to your life, to your soul. I mean, I think that's what resonated for me. The desire that we feel often says more about us than it does about the person who is the object of the desire. They're not special. They're not magical beings. We endow them with that. We give that to them and we give them power over us. But I think ultimately what I learned through my experience as well is that I don't want to be in something one sided. I don't want to be in something that's not mutual and that I deserve better. I deserve love and I have to hold out for it. And I have to not be desperate. Even though I've lived without love for so long, I can't be desperate for it. Like that desperation puts me at risk. It's dangerous to me because then you could be vulnerable to anybody. Could be really vulnerable to terrible men, you know? I don't want that. I don't ever I think what I learned, I don't ever want to be in that again. I will do whatever it takes to never be in that again, right? Cuz I didn't deserve it. I don't deserve to pour my love and my care and my attention into someone and to not get it back. And that was a big lesson to me is that it's damaging to the soul because you're giving so much of yourself to another person. You're pouring and pouring and they didn't ask you to. You're waiting for a drop from them. They didn't ask you to pour that love into them. And you deserve better. We deserve better than that. Maybe we have to be brought to our knees at times. Because what I see in Petra is someone hitting rock bottom. And maybe I did too. Like maybe I had to lose my mind. Maybe I had to break down because when all the pieces shatter, when you are shattered and you are in pieces, you have to restructure yourself. Your life is totally restructured. I was just talking to a friend about grief, and I believe that grief is another experience that shatters you and then restructures you, right? When you lose somebody, and I went through that with my dad, and my dad was the only man I ever had a deep and loving relationship with. He was the only man I had ever bonded with truly and had an attachment with until I met this man. That's also why it was so powerful, is that I had never really connected or attached to another man. And there were things about him, I think, that reminded me of my dad. And I just felt this connection to him. And that's also what intensified it, is that I didn't have a bunch of connections with other men. He was the first one after my dad. And so grief restructures us. And I think our first, because yeah, this was unrequited love, but this was also my first real heartbreak at 31. This was the first time I went through that kind of heartbreak. No, it wasn't a breakup. This is also what's really painful about unrequited love or limerence is that usually you're not in a relationship with the person. And so what are you grieving? It's like you can't listen to breakup songs. You're not going through a breakup. You can't define the relationship. And that makes it more amorphous, where you don't really know exactly what you're feeling. In Petra von Kant, Karin leaves her. The relationship ends. There is a breakup. And there is some amount of reciprocation, although Karin says a lot, I like you. Or at one time she says, oh, I did love you. But does she really love Petra? Is that really love? At one point, there's this scene where Petra says, everything aches with love for you. And I remember that scene so clearly the first time I watched the film because I felt that. Everything aches with love for you. The aching for love. What do you do with that? She's just helpless. And like she's drinking and she's just like drunk when she says it. And she's just like drowning in her obsession. It's when she's talking to Karin and she knows that she can't fully possess this woman. She knows that this woman does not fully love her in return, but she can't free herself. Why do we love those who do not love us? It's it's a mystery. We can't fully answer it, can we? Her heart aches, she's in agony, but she stays for a while. Does she enjoy the pain? Does she need this pain? Is she addicted not just to Karin, but to the intensity of longing for someone she can't have? I used to think about that when I was going through this experience. I was like, why can't I just let him go? Why do I think about him so much? Why can I not be free of this? I felt possessed. I felt like something external entered my brain because I could not let go. I could not stop thinking about him. But sometimes I thought, am I addicted to the pain? Am I addicted to the intensity of the longing for him? Does it take my mind off of other things, like the trauma of losing my dad and the emptiness that left behind? Does it take my mind off of the pain of being a caregiver for my mom and watching her health decline? Because that's when I met him, was when that happened. I met him when the pandemic started, and then when my mom's health started to go downhill and I had to start taking care of her physically. And it was almost like if I couldn't have his love, then I would just be obsessed, and the obsession would distract me or something. Was it the intensity? What was it that I wanted out of this? Because, and I thought it was interesting when, like, Karin tells her, I think Karin says she's hysterical, and Petra says, I'm not hysterical, I'm suffering. And Karin tells her, you thrive on suffering. I thought that was so interesting. She thrives on the suffering. What does she get out of it? And I'm someone who's always been more comfortable with pain because that's what I've known. Even on this podcast, what do I talk about? I tend to talk about pain. And at times I'm almost uncomfortable talking about things that are more hopeful or are more positive. It's almost like I've been trained or conditioned through all the rejection, the abandonment, the lack of love. It's almost like I've been conditioned to feel safe in the agony. Like that's the only way I know myself is through my pain, and your suffering can become your identity. And so also after the experience, I had to really interrogate that. I'm still not great at it. Like I'm still a melancholy, sorrowful person. That's just the truth. I try to bring lightness into my life, but I guess I'm still much more comfortable with the pain. I try to go toward the light now. Like I don't want to be known as some kind of depressing, sad person. I want to be vibrant and vivacious, and I want to be that. I hope that other people see me as a light in the world. I want to share my light. I'm not trying to share darkness. I'm not just sharing the pain. I'm sharing how I've lived with it, how I've lived in spite of it, how I have survived it, how I have taken it and used it. It's not all of me. Like, I am more than just my grief, and I am more than just, my loneliness. Even though I've not had the things that I need, even though I've not had love, I've never dated or, had a partner or anything like that, I still try to have a rich and meaningful life. I'm on a very different path than other people. I don't have children. I don't have a partner. I'm behind other people for the most part, my age, because of difficult things I went through and a lack of resources. But my being alive is a miracle. Like, I have survived a lot and I love life. I love art. I love cinema. I love music. I love literature. I love my friends and my mother. I love nature. I love talking about different things. I am deep and caring and compassionate, and I think that I am a wonderful person. I think I'm a beautiful person, but I still don't understand why other people haven't been able to see it, and I can't deny that part of my experience. But isn't it amazing that I can think those things about myself, that despite all this, I can see my worth. We all go through pain. We will all go through painful things. Maybe you didn't go through it when you were 16, right? When you were my age, but you will eventually go through painful things, and you will want art, and you will want commentators on art who can articulate those feelings. Life can't be sunshine and roses all the time. And some of us just know that pain and we know that darkness from an earlier age than other people. I didn't get to be young and carefree and fall in love, and there's a lot that I didn't get to have in life. But I keep getting up each day and I keep doing my best. One of the most powerful scenes, or the most powerful scene in the film, is when Petra goes and she grabs Karin. Petra gets on her knees and says, I can't help loving you. I need you. I need you so much. I want to exist only for you. I'm so alone without you. She's literally on her knees. It's like, it's degrading in a way, but it's also so raw and so nakedly vulnerable and so human. She's begging to be loved. She is desperate for love. It's like she will die if this person doesn't love her back. And one minute she loves Karin, the next she calls her a whore. She alternates between these extreme states because she is powerless. She's out of control. She's at the mercy of another human being. And you cannot judge it until you've lived it. I used to judge it, but when I went through this, I gained, just like when I lost my dad, that gave me so much empathy. But when I went through this, it gave me even more empathy for other people, because I know what people could say about me. Oh, how pathetic. Oh, you lost your mind over a man. I can hear it. I can hear it now. How could you lose your mind over a man? How could you let a man do that to you? How sad. But I lived it. It's changed how I view a lot of things. And I have a lot of empathy for people. What can happen to us? What can happen inside of us? Because I think that unrequited love and limerence, it like brings out this monster inside us, this emotional violence. I call it like the chaos of desire. Like, that's kind of the phrase I came up with. But is this love? Is it love if it tears you apart? The Joy Division song, right? Love will tear us apart. Is it love if you have to beg? Is it love if it's not returned? If it debases you, is it love? So if it's not love, what is it? What is it? Obsession? Is it just sexual? What is going on inside of us? What takes hold of us? I still don't understand it. But this film brought me closer to understanding it, or to at least see it mirrored on the screen through a woman, right? A woman who lays herself bare Margit's performance is so visceral. It's ugly and it's vicious, right? But it is also vulnerable and emotional and naked and fragile. Her body is so fragile. She's so incredibly thin, right? Even her body is like fragile. Unrequited love, it's an interior experience. No one really understands it but you. We all will experience it because we all feel love. We all go through heartbreak, but in our own ways. And when we're in it, nobody can save us from it. You can't just snap your fingers and it's over. The only way out of it is through it. You have to go into it. You have to go through it. You have to get to the other side. You have to feel all of it. Because when we feel that love, when we feel that longing, I think what I've also realized is that that is the most sacred part of me. That is the part that feels something for another human being. That is the part of me that wants to connect, that wants to love. He was not worthy of it. He didn't want it. He's not the point. That's why I say, like, I've forgotten him, but not the feeling of him. This is a precious and sacred part of me, the part that wanted to love him. It is not something to be ashamed of, but I lost myself to a frightening degree. And I think that really only love and death and maybe illness are the things that really bring us to our knees. They make us powerless in the face of their enormity. And I think unrequited love is one of life's worst agonies. I'm convinced of it. I thought I knew pain. I thought when I buried my father in the ground, when I stood by his dead body, when I stood by his grave, I thought I knew what pain was, and I did. But I did not know this pain because my father loved me and my father did not want to leave me. He did not choose to die. He did not choose to leave me. When this man rejected me and couldn't love me back, that was a different pain. It will either destroy you or it will rebirth you. It will be your rebirth, and you have to choose which one. You can let it crush your life or you can let it expand your life. We need love. There's nothing wrong with needing love. And to not get that love is devastating. It's devastating to our souls. But what gives me peace is that I've used the pain. I used it to change my life. I'm using it to do this episode. That love inside me is so beautiful. I am a very loving person. I've actually learned that through being a caregiver for my mom. Love is not just words. Love is what is it? Love is a verb. It's a doing word in the Massive Attack song. Love is action. It's what you do for somebody else as well, not just what you say. And through being a caregiver for my mom the last 5 years now, I am capable of so much love. And my love is sacred and precious. It should not be thrown around to just anybody because I know I can love. I don't have any doubt in my mind that I am a deeply, intensely loving woman. I am also a passionate woman. I really am. It's so hard to have this part of you, the passionate, the erotic, the desire. It's so hard to have these parts of you that are like unformed. Like you can't explore them. You can't nurture them because you can't be with somebody else. Because I believe that you learn things about yourself through your relationships. And you learn something about yourself through a romantic relationship. And so there are these parts of me that I don't even know yet because I've not been able to be in a relationship with somebody who reciprocated, who loved me back. But I have no doubt that I am a loving person and that it would be an honor for somebody to receive my love. And if that never happens, then it never happens. But I will not be in something one sided ever again. I know that. So if that means I have to be alone, that's what it means. I will choose to be alone before I will give my love to someone who doesn't want it and is not worthy of it. He didn't want it and he wasn't even deserving of it. We have to put our love where it is appreciated. We owe that to ourselves. You cannot stay in things that are one sided. You cannot stay in relationships that don't honor you. You can't stay in connections that don't enrich you. You just can't. And the scene where, I mean, this is probably the most famous image of the film, of Petra on the floor by the phone in her green dress with the rose choker or the flower choker. And she's waiting for that call from Karin on her birthday, Petra's birthday. She's filled with so much hatred. I hate you. If only I could die. Simply be gone. I can't bear the pain. I can't go on. It's this annihilating pain. But this is her moment of rock bottom, and she has to go there because that's what you feel. It's so ugly. That's also how you know it's not really love. Because love should not be hateful, should it? You shouldn't hate somebody that you say that you love. So is it love? It's obsession, it's desire, and you want to possess somebody. You want to own someone. How can you hate them and love them? I don't know. I just don't know if she truly loved her. I just don't know how she could call her a whore and all of that, right? Call her a bitch. It's so ugly. It brings out like this devil inside of Petra. It's ugly, but it's human. It's real. Petra is selfish. She's self-centered because it's not about Karin. It's about the fantasy of Karin, the ideal. It's about just needing to be loved because Petra has come out of a divorce before she met Karin, right? There's this void in her life and she wants Karin to fill it. She wants Karin to be all that she needs. She wants to save Karin. She wants to make Karin a star. And maybe if she does that, then Karin will want her back or will be dependent on her or be indebted to her. But Karin doesn't need her and Karin doesn't really want her. And she is stripped bare, Petra, in this scene. She's brought rock bottom, lowest of low, stripped of ego, helpless. She has lost herself, lost control, lost her mind. And even when her daughter arrives, Gabby, she's like so ugly toward her. She's ugly toward her mother. She's ugly toward everybody because she's been distorted. The obsession distorts her. Like, her friends and her family don't even recognize her. She's almost like a dog or like an animal on the floor, viciously screaming and yelling these things. It's almost like she's abusing herself as well. She breaks the dishes, she breaks the glass, like she's totally off the rails, isn't she? I love her as I've never loved anything before. It's like this addiction, right? She's not free and she doesn't want to be alive. She wants to sleep. And I understand that. As you know, as I talked about, like, there were times I did not want to be alive because I didn't want to be in pain. I just didn't want to be in pain anymore. And I talked about in my episode about Three Colors Blue when after my father died, I had a similar scene that's in Three Colors Blue where Juliette Binoche is about to take a lot of pills because she's lost her daughter and she's lost her husband and she doesn't think that she can keep living. And I emptied a full bottle of Tylenol. I remember doing this when I was at the house by myself shortly after my dad died. And I held all those pills in my hand. And I thought, if I take all of these, then the pain, I'll just go to sleep, right? And the pain will go away. And when I was in the depths of this heartbreak over this man, I had similar thoughts. I thought about like stepping into the traffic, oncoming traffic at times. I have a road beside my house and I had moments where I would sit outside on the porch and I would look over at the road because it can get a bit busy. And I thought, if I just walk out into the traffic, it'll just be over. The pain will just be over. I just wanted him to love me. I don't know what I thought it would do. I don't know if I thought that the love would save me or transform me or make me happy or take away the pain, but I didn't want to be alive because he didn't love me. And it's so hard to admit that I didn't want to live over a man, but I didn't want to exist. It haunts me when I think about the pain I was in at that moment. I just wanted to be released. I just wanted that demon out of me. I still don't know what overtook me. I still don't know. It was so frightening to be inside of it and in the whirlwind of it, the turmoil of it. And so when Petra says that and she's just out of control. I understood. I understood. And I also understand the last scene where she's in bed in the dark and she's finally free of it. And she's a completely different person. She speaks more softly. Her hair, it looks like instead of all the wigs that she's been wearing throughout the film, she speaks in her own voice. I'm so afraid. I'm so alone. I understand that too, because when you let go of the person, when you accept that they don't love you, then what do you have to face? You have to face that you're alone. That's what's underneath the obsession, is the terror of being unloved and alone. And Petra realizes through hitting rock bottom that she didn't really love Karin. Not the way that she thought she loved her. When she hits rock bottom, it seems to wake her up. It's like when you go so low that you cannot go any lower, something about it wakes her up and actually frees her. It allows her clarity. It's like a spell has been broken. And that's what's crazy about it, is that just as I met him and it was like a lightning bolt, what I felt in that moment that I still can't explain, like this instant connection to someone, I guess, just as quickly as it comes, that's how quickly it can go. Where it's like all of a sudden it's just not there anymore. All of a sudden you wake up and you're totally free of it and you don't even think about them. I used to think about him every day, all day, for 2.5 years. He was what I thought about. When I woke up, when I went to bed, it's embarrassing to even admit it. And then it was gone. It was gone. And that's what happens to Petra. She says, you have to learn to love without demanding. I didn't love her. I just wanted to possess her. That's all over. I've learned my lesson, and it was very painful. That's what she says. I've made peace with the world. She softens. It's amazing to watch this woman who is so hard and rigid and frightening and out of control. And then at the end, she's soft and peaceful and she's free of it. And that's like stunning, isn't it? Someone who you couldn't stop thinking about for years and you're just past it. Like there's no rhyme or reason for it. It's so irrational in a way, isn't it? But that's that's part of the human condition, is being taken over by things, being brought to our knees, having to face something that is so enormous and outside of our control. That doesn't mean that we're not responsible for our actions. I don't say all of this to justify violence or stalking or harmful things, right? That's not what I mean. I'm talking more poetically. I'm talking more metaphorically, philosophically, of like when you feel this for another person, the enormity of the love and desire, sometimes you have to feel that. Like it brings you to the limits of yourself, and you have to feel that at times, the enormity of it, just like death, the enormity of death, and facing that. There are things larger than us. There are things that bring us to our knees. There are things we can't explain. There are emotions and feelings inside of us that don't make sense. I am not a fan of therapy speak. I'm not a fan of the way that everything has become pathologized, particularly through social media, where everybody is diagnosing each other and reducing each other to mental illnesses. You're a narcissist. That's toxic. All kinds of different stuff, like pathologizing language. At times, we come up against the limits of ourselves. That's what it means to be human. You can't be in control all the time. You're going to feel things for other people. And that's actually important, for you to feel things for other people. It's important for you to not be sedated. It's important for you to have emotions and feelings. Maybe I had to lose my mind. Maybe I had to fall apart. Maybe I had to be torn apart and shattered so that I would restructure my life, so that I would stop destroying myself, so I would stop hating myself. Because at the end of the day, he was just a man. That's all he was. He's a dime a dozen. There was nothing special about him. He's just a guy. They're all just guys. They're not superhuman. They're not magical. He was a guy. That's it. And there's a million of him. There's only one of me. And I had to know my value. And maybe I had to learn it that way. He never should have had that kind of power over me. Of course not. Of course not. No man should. And I let men have too much power over me at times. How I feel about myself, my self image, because I never got their attention. I never got their validation. They don't think I'm beautiful. They always treated me like I was worthless because, I wasn't conventionally attractive. None of it matters. I know my worth. I know my value. And like I said, I know the love that I contain. And I know that I'm worthy of love. And I'm so glad to be free. And I'm so glad that I survived it. And I feel like I really chose myself. It woke me up. And I had to make changes in my life as a result. I feel like after my dad died, I kind of gave up on life. I went down a more self destructive path to deal with the trauma and the loneliness. I didn't know what to do. I was lost. I still am. But when this happened, I made a different choice. And I chose to live. I chose life. I chose to love myself, to take better care of myself. I chose to change my life for the better. I chose to save myself. And that's the meaning I create out of it. There's something very powerful when you get free of it. There really is. And she gets free. But she had to be brought to her knees. She had to hit rock bottom to finally let go of this woman who was hurting her, who was using her. And she gets the call from Karin. She gets the birthday call, and she's fine. She doesn't feel anything about it. And she's free. And it's almost like her life can begin again. I feel like in my 30s, this has been one of the defining events of my 30s. I feel like I really started to live in my 30s, that I got a second chance at life. I'm still struggling through it. I'm still going through a lot. It hasn't been easy, but I do feel more connected to life. And no, I didn't get the love that I wanted, but I think I got something more valuable. And I realize now that he wasn't meant to love me, and his love was not meant to save me the way that I thought it was. The love that saved me is my love, the love for myself. That's what was meant to save me. I appreciate you listening. Until next time, keep watching great films.